All right, so are you ready to really dive into a story? I mean, this one, it really makes you think about choices, about those impossible situations, the tough ones. You sent over these excerpts from this U.S. Marines interview, the Shawn Ryan Show, right? And, well, this isn't your typical military story, that's for sure.
No, not at all. This one, it unfolds during that crazy withdrawal from Afghanistan back in 2021. But at the core, it's about this one man. It's his battle against the very system he's a part of. And it's driven by, I think, compassion,
Yeah.
a promise, and in the end, a fight for justice, one that's still going on even today.
Yeah, and it all comes down to Joshua Mast, this Marine who, he's swore an oath, right, to serve his country. But then he found himself, well, in this moral dilemma, and it really tested, I think, the limits of that oath. But even before Afghanistan, Mast's story, it's not your average story. I mean, think about it. The guy grows up, with golfers, his whole family almost went pro, and then, bam, 4 days, he's accepted to the Marine Corps and law school.
Wow, in 4 days. That's
Yeah.
wild. It just shows you something about him, though, right? I mean, this is someone who he's looking for a challenge. He isn't afraid of tough decisions. And that sense of duty, it's unwavering,
Yeah.
and it's going to be huge in everything that's about to happen.
Right. So Mast, he ends up in Afghanistan as a judge advocate, which is basically what? A military lawyer in a war zone? Talking complex. And it's there he runs into the situation, and let me tell you, it changes his life big time.
Yeah. Okay, so picture this. It's 2019. U.S. forces, they're doing this raid, suspected terrorist compound, and after it's all done, they find this baby girl injured, all alone, totally vulnerable. This baby, she's later named Sparrow, and she ends up being the catalyst for Mast's whole journey.
Wow. Okay, but let me ask you this. How far would you go to protect someone, an innocent life? Because Mast, he's a judge advocate, which means he's got to follow all these regulations, procedure, the whole 9 yards. But here he is, face to face with this baby. She's a casualty of war, and there's just no playbook for this. What do you even do?
Exactly. And this is where his legal background, it comes into play. But not how you'd think, I bet. He doesn't just follow orders blindly. He starts digging. Intelligence, risks. He looks at it all, and then he starts fighting for Sparrow, for her safety. He sees the whole picture, the politics, everything. But for him, there's this moral compass, and it overrides all of that.
Yeah, but it's not just compassion, right? He's dealing with military law, too. So what could he even do as a judge advocate? I mean, could he even represent a foreign national?
Yeah.
Especially one found in this kind of, sensitive situation.
Yeah, that's the crazy part, this tension. He's in this system that's, it's made for war, order, discipline, all that. But then he's got to act on this higher calling. So his efforts to keep Sparrow safe, it becomes this test of his legal skills, but also his personal beliefs.
And can you imagine, the bureaucratic battles? This isn't just, paperwork. He's taking on this whole mindset, an institution it's stuck in these wartime protocols.
Right, absolutely. But his determination, it ends up paying off. His fight, it reaches the top, the government. And because of that, the policy changes. Sparrow, she can come to the U.S. to get care. You'd think, okay, that's it, right? One man making a difference in this rigid system. End of story.
But as we're going to find out, this is just the start. This is a much bigger fight, way more complex, and it exposes, some ugly truths about what institutions prioritize and the unintended consequences, when you act in the name of national security. So Mast, he gets this policy changed, right? Sparrow can come to the U.S. That's got to be a win. I mean, finally, some good news, especially coming from a war zone.
It is. It's a win for, basic human decency, compassion. But, it also shows this tension between what's right personally and what these big institutions care about. And it gets even more obvious in what happens next.
Because then Mast, he hits this wall, and it's from, get this, the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Don't forget, it's 2019, right? The U.S., they're trying to make this peace deal with the Taliban. And the embassy, they just want to make sure nothing messes that up.
So basically they're saying this agreement, this political thing is more important than a baby's life. I mean, come on, wasn't the embassy supposed to, make sure Sparrow was safe, especially after they went and changed the policy just for her?
That's the thing, isn't it? What happens when doing the right thing bumps up against, the bigger picture? Who gets to decide what matters more? Mast, he calls what the embassy did a moral and ethical failure. He says they chose politics over a kid's safety.
Yeah, he even says they actively tried to stop Sparrow from coming to the U.S., that they twisted the facts, downplayed the dangers if she stayed in Afghanistan.
Right. And that brings up this whole question of accountability.
Yeah.
Were these embassy people just following orders? Or were they part of this choice that could have really hurt a child? From what Mast says, it seems like they were trying to shut him up, keep the peace deal moving no matter what.
But shouldn't they have, like, really looked into things? They found this Afghan guy, said he was Sparrow's uncle, but did anyone check his ID? If he was actually related to her, what his plan even was?
That's where things get, well, darker, I think. Mast says he kept saying they needed a DNA test. He was worried. But the embassy, they just went ahead, handed Sparrow over to this guy, a total stranger, basically, in a country that was, well, falling apart.
Wow. And Mast, he and his wife, they had already started to, adopt Sparrow. Think about that. They were ready to bring her into their family. And then the very people who should have been protecting her, they take her away.
It just shows you can have good intentions, people can fight for what's right, but the system, the politics, it can just crush it all.
And the impact of that, huge. Sparrow, she disappears into Afghanistan. Mast and his wife, they're left with nothing, not knowing where she is, if she's okay, if she's even alive, for a year and a half.
A year and a half. Imagine that. The guilt, the anger, wondering if they could have done something more. But even then, Mast never gave up. He kept looking for information, making connections, waiting for the day he could bring Sparrow home.
And that day comes, but not how anyone thought it would. August 2021, everything changes in Afghanistan. The Taliban takes over, Kabul falls, people are desperate to get out. It was a wake-up call for the world, really. And for Mast, it was his chance.
He knew Sparrow was in danger, real danger. With the Taliban in charge, anyone connected to the U.S., especially a child, they'd be a target. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was life or death.
So how do you even pull off a rescue in that chaos? We're talking about a war zone controlled by, well, the enemy. Thousands trying to escape.
That's where you see how resourceful Mast is, how determined. He calls in every favor. Former military guys, intelligence people, even the National Mission Force. The special ops guys who do the really dangerous stuff.
So he's running his own, private rescue alongside the official U.S. evacuation. That's insane. Burnophones, secret meetings, Taliban checkpoints, all while trying to act normal for his family back home.
Out of a movie, right? But it was real. And the stakes were so high, every move he made, every person he talked to, it could have blown the whole thing. Put him in danger, the people helping him, everyone.
And don't forget, at this point, no one even knows if Sparrow's alive. Or even in Kabul, it was a long shot. Driven by, I think, a father's love and this Marine's commitment, you don't leave anyone behind, even if that someone is a little girl he met once.
And then, somehow, a break. Through these, back channels, whispers, Mast gets confirmation. Sparrow's alive. She's at the Kabul airport, trying to get out.
But even then, the airport, total chaos, crowds, gunfire. The Taliban could attack anything. How do you even get one kid out of that?
You need the best, the National Mission Force. Mast, he gives them the intel, the connections, the support on the ground. And these guys, they risk their lives to get into the airport and find Sparrow.
But it wasn't just grab and go. Mast finds out that the Afghan guy, the one who had Sparrow, he's there too, with a pregnant woman and some other people who are, counting on him to get them out.
So another impossible choice. Get Sparrow out fast, just her, or risk everything to make sure everyone, even the people with this guy who might have put Sparrow in danger, to make sure they're all safe.
That says a lot about Mast. He could have just focused on Sparrow after everything. But no, he says they have to wait. Puts himself and Sparrow at risk to make sure no one's left behind.
It shows you, even in those crazy situations, under pressure, one person doing what's right can make a huge difference.
And in the end, they do it. The National Mission Force gets Sparrow out. The Afghan guy, the woman, everyone. Flew them out at night. It's incredible what those guys can do. Brave, skilled, they went above and beyond.
It's such a relief. But it's also the start of something new, because now Sparrow, she's in America, starting a new life. But the trauma, that's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
And for Mast, the fight for justice, for someone to be held responsible, that's not over either.
Sparrow's safe now, with Mast and his family. But those 18 months, it makes you think about the trauma, the scars you can't see, the ones that stick around long after, the physical stuff is healed.
Right, exactly. And that's a big part of this whole thing. It's easy to just see the rescue, the politics, all that. But what about the people? Sparrow, she was just a kid. Now she's got to, try to heal, adapt to this whole new life, deal with everything that happened.
Mast talks about how she was at first, quiet, scared of men, bad dreams. It's awful to think what she went through, feeling abandoned, maybe even abused. Who knows what happened in those months she was gone?
Yeah, it's tough. And then here's another twist. As Mast and his wife are, figuring things out about Sparrow's time in Afghanistan, they find out some stuff about that Afghan guy, the one who took her, brought her to the airport for the rescue.
Hold on. Didn't they, vet this guy? He was responsible for a child. You'd think they would check him out. Background check, the whole thing.
That's what bugs Mast, even now. He says the guy's story, it just didn't add up. There's stuff that points at him maybe being connected to the Taliban, and that Sparrow, she wasn't even living with him that whole time.
Wait, so they gave Sparrow to someone who might be with the Taliban, and no one, followed up, investigated. It's like they were so happy to have her back, they just ignored any red flag.
That's what Mast thinks, that they tried to, cover up the embassy messing up. It looked good, the rescue, so they didn't care about what might have happened to Sparrow before that.
That's messed up. The same people who went through all that to save her, maybe they're the reason she was in danger in the first place, and then how the government reacted. Even worse, they basically tried to make Mast look bad, like he had some kind of vendetta.
Typical, right? Shoot the messenger. Instead of dealing with the problem, they attack the guy who's pointing it out, trying to shut him up, make it all go away.
But Mast, he didn't back down. He filed lawsuits, did interviews, kept talking. He wants answers, wants someone to be held responsible. He became, I don't know, an accidental whistleblower.
Yeah.
A hero, even though he probably didn't want to be, fighting the system he was part of.
It's a powerful story, right? It's not just about rescuing this kid. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard, even when the people in charge are pushing back. It's about standing up to the way things are, demanding better, and fighting for truth, for justice, not just, making things look good politically.
So where are we now? Sparrow, she's safe, she's loved, she's getting better. But finding out the truth, making sure someone's held accountable, that's still going on.
And that's where you come in. You listening to this, you've heard the story, you've thought about the tough choices. You've seen what war does, how politics messes things up. What do you think? What does it mean to you?
Does it make you angry? Make you want to do something? Or maybe it just makes you, I don't know, appreciate the people who risk everything to do what they think is right, even when everyone's telling them to stop.
This deep dive, it's taken us to some dark places. Complex, hidden stuff. We've seen how choices have real consequences, how doing the right thing, it's not always easy, and how even when people try to do good, it can go wrong.
But we've also seen how good can win, how one person can change things, how even the worst situations can have some hope in them.
So think about it. What would you have done if you were Mastgatist? How can we, all of us, hold the powerful people accountable? And what does it even mean to be a hero when right and wrong, it's all mixed up? Those are questions worth thinking about, talking about, and, actually doing something about.
Yeah, because this isn't just Sparrow's story, or even Mast's. It's about all of us, the choices we make, what we value, and what kind of world we want for ourselves, for everyone coming after us.
That's what these deep dives are all about. It's not just, learning stuff. It's about sparking something, making you want to learn more, do more, be more. So keep this story with you. Let it make you curious, make you question things, and let it push you to make a difference in whatever way you can.